What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Lunch with the Clydesdale. Wow, what a 24 hours it's been since I saw you guys yesterday, but we were back and better than ever. Really trying hard to keep these a consistent everyday show. Now as projects have moved on and in a better groove with work. So, um, wow. So within the last 24 hours, first of all, Corey, seeing the chat. Thanks for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You guys are awesome as always. Um, so, like, I'm sure everywhere around the country it's this way, but like illness and the flu and norovirus and whatever else is going around has been like taking people out. So, my mom got influenza A about a week ago. So I've been calling her every day because she lives alone, just checking on her. And she's been hacking and coughing and sleeping and just a bunch of crazy stuff. And so yesterday, gosh, about 4 o'clock, I called her to see how she was doing. And she just said she felt really weak. And this is a week into the thing. And I said, well, what's the plan? Because you're a week into this and nothing's getting better. And she said she called the doctor, and the doctor said that, hey, go to the hospital. The best we can do at this point is get a chest x-ray and make sure that this hasn't turned into pneumonia. And my mom's like, I don't even know if I can get to my car and drive to the hospital. I said, well, let's stay in touch. About an hour later, I get a call from one of her friends, and another one of her friends is an RN, and she checked on my mom and said, enough's enough, called the ambulance. My mom was then rushed to the hospital where she was taken to the ER and chest x-rays given, and it turns out she has pneumonia. So they started IV antibiotics to clear that up. With that happening, I get a call from my sister, and my sister tells me that my mom's sister has passed away. So my mom does not know this. We're getting word that she has passed away. She is my mom's older sister and the only sister she has left. My mom is one of four. Her other two sisters have passed away. This one passed away yesterday. And so I'm the oldest. I'm the big brother to my sister. So I made the call to my mom while she's in the ER, while she's hooked up to IVs, to let her know that her sister had passed away. We both cried a little bit. Just then her pastor had actually walked in to see her. And so that was really good that he was there, and they got to chat and pray and do all those things to kind of help her out. There was a lot of back and forth throughout the evening with my nephew, who was raised by my mom, lives here in Columbus. We are trying to figure out like a tag team approach to go home to be with her so we can make it a longer stretch than just a couple days. So he left this morning. He's probably just getting there now. He's going to be with her for now. And then I'm heading out on Friday to go be with her for the weekend. So there's that. So then I finally am like, listen, I need some rest. I need to get to bed. I wake up this morning to find out that someone has hacked my debit card account somehow, and 5 massive purchases were made on my debit card overnight. And I'm missing several $100s from my account, and I get an alert from my bank I talked to them. They actually stopped some of those charges. I had to dispute a couple others. So now I'm in that process, and I don't have a working bank card to try to get home to my mom. They are mailing me one ASAP. I do have my wife's, so we'll figure all that out. But my goodness, what a freaking 24 hours! It has been utterly crazy, and I'm just trying to kind of settle in with you guys today and get a little bit of normalcy, and then figure out my trips for the week to get to her, hang out with her for the weekend. Um, yeah, yeah. Just try to take a breath. Just try to take a breath. Thank you, both Corey and Lex, for the thoughts, the prayers. I appreciate every single one of them. But I did talk to her this morning. She is feeling better, and her cough is not as deep. And she's able to breathe better at this point. So it looks like she is stabilized out. It also affected her blood sugar horribly. They've got that back under control this morning. And I think I've shared this on the show before. She went into AFib too. She is still in AFib, which complicated some of the aspects of this a little bit. But it looks like they have everything kind of stabilized right now. So yeah, crazy. And my sister is sick as well. And so my sister does not want to take any of her illness into the hospital with her to my mom. So we have that aspect as well. And there is some suspicious things going on with her, that she has an appointment on Monday and can't miss that appointment because of what's going on with her. Yeah, just so yeah, that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. But yeah, hope everyone else is having a great day. It's another snowy, cold day here in Columbus, but we're getting through that too. So I want to let you guys know, don't forget, we had great, getting a lot of feedback on Instagram, a couple comments on YouTube about the Sunday Night CrossFit show from last week. A lot of people really enjoyed the different perspectives and the respectful conversation we had about the CrossFit Open and other things happening in the CrossFit space. So make sure you go check that out. It is one of our most watched episodes as of late, and it's definitely worth the watch. So make sure you go check that out. In addition to that, tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Pacific, we'll have Justin Kotler on the show to talk about Underdogs Athletics and where they're at, what happened with the Ricky Garrard situation, what the future looks like for Underdogs. They did sign a new athlete. If you have not seen that, we'll talk about that as well. And so excited to catch up with my friend Justin tomorrow and talk about all things CrossFit, World Fitness Project, what it's like to be a coach with all the opportunities out there, things like that. So make sure you check in and see that show tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And then now we'll get into the headline for this show, and that is Ben Bergeron talked about why he was out of the CrossFit, not out of the CrossFit Open. Sorry. Brain fog. Why he de-affiliated CrossFit New England and is no longer affiliated. What's crazy to me is when I first got into CrossFit, and for those of you who don't know, I started in 2011, so pretty early on in the process of CrossFit. One of the podcasts I listened to all the time was Chasing Excellence. Listen to that podcast constantly. when I first got into CrossFit. At some point, I kind of learned what Corey is talking about, that he has a Rolodex of inspirational sayings he got from other people, and then he passes them off as his own. And what I kind of learned too is that, like, there wasn't a lot of substance behind the words. He was great at saying the things, but at some point I felt like they just didn't ring true. So, just as I said on the Sunday Night CrossFit show, I want to be a place where people can freely talk about why they feel some way or why they don't feel some way, and that we can have a discussion about that in an adult manner, in a respectful manner, and maybe not change each other's mind, but at least respect where that is coming from, um, and still be friends at the end of the day. And that's kind of the beautiful thing with Carolyn, Jamie, and I. We don't always very we rarely agree completely on any subject, but we can have the conversation, and at the end of the show we're still friends, which is what I love about that show. And I love the fact that we can keep it respectful during those conversations. But I heard that Ben Bergeron has been talking about why he de-affiliated. He did that like a couple months ago, it was my understanding. But he brought out an episode on his podcast, Chasing Excellence, where they brought a guest on to talk about why they de-affiliated. And I was watching it last night when I actually was having trouble sleeping. And it just really, really annoyed me. And I hope that regardless of your feelings of what happened at last year's games, we can have a discussion about this. And he actually points to the death of Lazar Jukic as the reason that he is de-affiliating and the CrossFit reaction to that. And so I'm actually going to play a snippet, and trust me, I get it. I was there that weekend. It sucked. It sucked bad. And he talks about how it was bad there. And they talk about how they love the community, and the community was like at a loss for what to do. They wanted to be together. They felt like they were drawn together in that moment, but they did not know what to do in that moment. And they go on to talk about the leadership of CrossFit. But Ben is actually asked, what would he have done differently if he were in that situation? And I have it queued up from his podcast. And so I'm going to share it now. And again, this is from the Chasing Excellence podcast. I'm going to blow it up so you guys can kind of see it full screen. And here he's asked the question, and this is his answer.
So I want to take those two things. I do want to explore with the both of you what could have been done differently that would have led to a different outcome, at least as best as the two of you can figure for your particular environments and contexts. So Ben, I'll start with you. If you could bring us back a year, or maybe just even to the games, and you were in the leadership position at CrossFit HQ, what would you have done differently? Can you walk us through at least some of the places that you would have went left when they went right, or you would have pressed the gas when they pressed the brake?
Well, I don't know what I would have done because no one knows what they would do until they're put in that really challenging situation.
Yep.
So what I would do is the right thing. I mean, it just sounds so cliche, but really that's not what happened. And I don't mean
Okay. He starts by saying, I don't know what I would do, because nobody knows what they would do unless they're in that situation. And then after a pause says, I would do the right thing. What does that even mean? Here we are talking 6 months after the event. You have had 6 months to reflect on what happened at the CrossFit Games. I'm going to admit to you, I have no idea how I would handle that situation. It is an inconceivable situation for me to be able to put myself there, understand everything going on around me, and to armchair quarterback what happened in those moments. He starts off right by saying that exact damn thing. And then to say, but I do know this, I would have done the right thing. How can you say you don't know what you would have done, but it would have been the right thing? Are you kidding me? We've had 6 months to think about this. 6 months for you to contemplate everything that happened in that moment. And when asked what you would have done differently, you can't tell me. You say you don't know, but it would have been the right thing. How in the hell can you say that? Corey says that makes no sense, Ben. Andrew, vague and ambiguous, so no one can pin anything on him. James W., this is a situation where there's no right way to respond, but there sure as hell is a wrong way to respond. CrossFit HQ fumbled the reaction in response to the tragedy horribly. I don't know what the right thing to do is, but I do the right thing. That is exactly what he said. There are factors at play here that we don't know about. CrossFit is not owned by Don Fall. CrossFit is not owned by Dave Castro. There's a board of directors. There is a, whatever they're called, the company that bought CrossFit, Berkshire, that have more say as to how that reaction was than any of the other people, any other players in that situation. Were there things done incorrectly? I will tell you unequivocally there were. It could have been handled better. The tribute could have been handled better. Meeting with the athletes could have been handled better. And there has been admissions from CrossFit HQ that they did not do that right. But to tell you that with a board of directors over top of me telling me what I can and cannot do, I don't know what would have happened through that situation. James W., the idea that CrossFit HQ should have turned over the independent investigation report is just naive. They're almost certainly legally precluded from disclosing it for many reasons. I agree with you 100%, James. KPJ Barry, he goes on to say that he really waited for HQ to respond, all fall and admit wrongdoing or inadequate safety and say we messed up, and they never did. He does do that. I will tell you, he does go on and say that. But I will go back to what James just said, that I am sure there are legal things that preclude them from admitting that they did anything wrong in that action of the death. If they admit they are wrong, they are opening themselves up for massive lawsuits. And I am sure that is what the board of directors are focused on, and Berkshire and all of that. And it's funny because we have the Daniel Chaffee interview today, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But a lot of what he says kind of plays a part in what happened here. And he does say that they should have stepped up. They should have admitted what they did wrong. And they have admitted some wrongdoing, that they did handle things in some ways. But to admit wrongdoing is admitting guilt when there are probably pending lawsuits. And even if there aren't pending lawsuits, by admitting guilt, you're opening up yourself for even more lawsuits. And with that, probably means CrossFit doesn't exist anymore. And if you're Berkshire and the board of directors, that is the last thing you want. And therefore, why they probably gave directives to the leadership at that time that they could only go this far in what they were saying. So anyway, the way he answered that question just really upset me a lot. While I couldn't sleep, and then I couldn't sleep some more. But it just felt like a play for trying to be relevant again. As we're 6 months post games, we are into a new. He even said, like, it has nothing to do with the affiliate fee raises. It has nothing to do with all the decisions that CrossFit made before. Now, the guest on here with him goes in a different direction entirely. He said this is something that's been brewing for him since 2020. And he finally made the decision. And the nail in the coffin was the death at the games. I actually understood his plight way more than I understood Ben's. Because he thinks that there is a trend in not doing what's best for the affiliates and not doing what's best for the members in the CrossFit space. So Corey says to even expect there's some sort of protocol for a tragedy of this magnitude is absurd. No one expected anyone to die, not a single person. While I agree with you there, what he keeps saying in the podcast is that your moral compass or your integrity should have come to the front. Yeah, a lot of those catchphrases that he's been spouting for years. And just to be transparent, my old gym used to do comp train programming. I was never a fan of it. It made me probably have a distaste for Ben Bergeron. And so I've never been a big fan to begin with, other than when I first got into CrossFit and listened to his Chasing Excellence podcast back then. But then I wondered what the heck. CrossFit says, feels like when Mark Wahlberg said he would have stopped 9/11 if he was on that plane. Yeah. Corey's gym still follows comp train, wondering how much longer after this. I think there's going to be a group that go ahead and can continue to follow, but I don't know what that means. What I find it really kind of super ironic is now with the rumored sale of CrossFit, why now? Why now to make all these statements when in a few months we could have a completely different leadership in place? Not only is it weird and doesn't really say much, the timing of it is just bizarre. So yeah. And then one other thing about the podcast, you'll notice that just like myself and many other podcasts out there, we go live. What you see is what you get. What I find really hard to watch with Chasing Excellence is they use an AI editor that takes out any large gaps between words. And that choppiness makes me feel like I'm watching a Max Headroom commercial from the 80s, lowers my trust in what's being said if you have to use that much editing to try to make yourself look the best you can possibly look. I am so much more into a podcast that just lets it flow, and it is what it is. You are what you are. It's much more believable. But man, there's a couple people out there that use that AI editing, and it makes it really hard for me to watch and believe anything that's being said, because you can't tell what's been AI edited and what's been edited. So the other thing that's weird to me is, Ben was taking a step back from the competitive CrossFit world, right? He was going to dive into his affiliate. It was all about the affiliate. But the reason that he's de-affiliating is because of the sport, which he had taken a step back from. Corey says, agreed, CrossFit. Harry Polly was and is legit. The individual track fell off directly after he left. Now Cole is in charge, and a lot of buzzwords. So if you're taking a step back from the sport of CrossFit to focus on your affiliate and focus on the community, why would an action from the games be what pulls you away from that? They've been an affiliate for 18 years. And now is when you're going to take a step back. Clock asks, what did you not like about CT programming? I've said this a million times. And what I didn't like about it was programmed for people who wanted to be competitive in CrossFit. It looked at, and if you go back and listen to Chasing Excellence back in the day, it looked at the programming from the open to semifinals to regionals, whatever they were at the time, to the games, and it programmed for that to make you the best competitive athlete possible. It is comp train for competitors. I am and never will be an elite athlete in the CrossFit space. What I loved about CrossFit was the unknown and the unknowable, going into the gym and being surprised about the workout and doing it because it was fun. Not dumbbells every third day because dumbbells have been programmed a lot at regionals this year. I wanted to lift barbells, not dumbbells. I wanted to do the fun stuff, right? I am currently 55 years old. I want to be healthy and live a longer life, and I want to have fun while doing it. And that's what CrossFit gave me when I first got into it. When we started doing comp train training, it became just meh, like the same shit all the time. And like trying to be a competitive athlete. I went to local comps and just I did my best, had fun, but I was never going to be an elite athlete. And I don't need that. I need to just be healthy and be the best Scott I can be going forward. That's why I didn't like it. And I could probably, if I dove into Mayhem programming or if I dove into any of these other template programmings that you get from the big guys, I probably would have the same complaint. When I first got into CrossFit, literally the owner of our gym would come in and write the workout on the board as we were standing there. So nobody even knew what it was. it's whatever equipment, whatever timing we had at the time, and he would make it out as we stood there. When I first went to Polaris, Christy and Patrick did a lot of interval training, which was just fun. I liked the interval training. I liked a lot of rowing. They had a lot of bench press. They had a lot of the things that I like to do. So yeah, that's what I'll say. And I think that some of the affiliates have lost their way in that aspect. A lot of people just are coming in to be the healthiest 55-year-old or the healthiest 35-year-old or the healthiest 25-year-old that they can be. And they're not there to be a competitive athlete. And I think some of the template programmings don't necessarily feed into that. So, and it's not taking anything away from, as Corey is saying, Mayhem and Imam and even Comp Train. Like, there are people that love that stuff and they want to be competitive and they want to do those things and go for it. For me personally, that's just not the kind of CrossFit that I signed up for. So that's it. So I'm going to finish up today. Now that I got the Ben rant off of my chest. If you have not seen the Coffee Pods and Wads interview with Daniel Chaffee, yesterday Matt Souza had a show where he got out a lot of red yarn, connected a lot of dots, a little bit hard to follow, did my best. It seems that CrossFit is selling or has been sold or is close to selling. And with his ball of yarn, connected these dots that an entity in Europe named B Sport is behind the purchase, and that they own the Hustle Up app. They own Northern Spirit clothing. And somehow in that ball of yarn, one of the connected dots was that Daniel Chaffee had a good shot at being CEO. What I'll tell you is I watched the interview on Coffee Pods and Wads today to see if that question was going to be asked and what his response to that was. I am less inclined to believe that that is the case, and him not being the CEO. But dang, after listening to the full interview, I would love him to be the CEO. And so it's interesting when that came up, and he even at the very end of it acknowledges that he knew that there was discussion yesterday about him being CEO and all of that, and he was very flattered by it. But he's been around CrossFit for a very long time. He owns 3 boxes in France that seem very, very popular. I think the one Jimmy said had 800 members. He is the organizer of the French Throwdown. One thing I found interesting is of the 12 years they've put that on, only 5 years have they made a profit. And the important part, and I really want to talk about this with the ladies on Sunday Night CrossFit Talk, so we'll probably bring that up there. But he said it's all really important as to who the buyer is. If it's another one of these holding companies or investment banker types, he didn't seem interested at all to be a CEO. If it's someone that's passionate about CrossFit and wants to grow it, then he did seem interested, but he said there's a half a dozen people he think could do a better job or as good a job as he could. And the way he kind of described it was, we don't need someone in here to come and do a flip. You buy like a 400-year-old mansion and you don't want someone to come in and just try to flip it to sell it off. You want someone that's going to come in and handle the renovations with care and have something beautiful at the end, because it has a history, a rich history, a beautiful history, and you want to accentuate that. And it needs to be something that someone wants to keep around for 15, 20, 30 years. Which I found fascinating. But it's a great interview. Here's what it looks like if you hop over to YouTube. Again, it's on the Coffee Pods and Wads channel. That is Daniel Chaffee right there. It is The State of CrossFit is the title of the video, and it's very well done. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think he brought a lot to the table as to what can be done to make things better. He also, I think, cleared up. I think he makes statements in here about that if you're a private equity company coming in and you have a roadmap as to how to make profit, and that does not meet your expectations in the first year or two, then you just start saying no to anything that costs money. And he insinuates that that is what Don has been faced with for the last couple years, is that the private equity firm is basically just saying no to everything that costs money. So if it is selling, hope that it's someone that's passionate about CrossFit, that wants it to grow, that wants it to be the beautiful thing that it is, and not just a fast remodel flip to sell off in a few years. So, yeah. With that, it's been a rough day for me. I'm going to go chill back at my work desk, and CrossFit says cut, make the asset sellable on paper, right? And I think at this point, because their plan didn't go as they saw it, it's cut, and try not to lose as much money as possible. So don't forget, tomorrow we have Justin Kotler on the show, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, talking about underdogs and what happened with Ricky. In addition to that, we've got the Sunday night show coming back this week. We've got the roundtable tomorrow. We'll talk about all this stuff that's been going on. I know some of the roundtable folks have strong feelings about Ben Bergeron, so that may be a topic again tomorrow. But yeah, with that, lunch is over. Get back to work, you hooligans. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.